Hi everybody, I'm Kelly, and today on Kelly's Crafts we're going to make a fun Valentine pillow. We're going to work on some applique and then working on binding and making a pillow casing. So let's dive in. So today I already have a little bit prepped for you, ready to go, and I'm going to show you the basics on what we're going to do to get started. So I do have some scrap batting. We do sell a little bit of batting in small amounts, so if you don't have any scraps, you can absolutely go that route. And then I did take some scrap fabric. So we do sell a bunch of Kaffe here, so I knew I had to make a Kaffe pillow, and I know all these colors just blend together so nicely. So I just went through my scrap pile and I said, what can we go ahead and make? So I also had come across this Tim Holtz fabric as well that happened to have letters on them, and I cut out some letters that represent my parents' initials, because this will actually be a little pillow that I'm going to give to my mom and dad for Valentine's Day. So what I do for the fabric is I did bring a little sample piece, and to get these heart cutouts, it is so simple. I literally just did it, by hand. There was no sort of template. I kind of decided on what size pillow I wanted from a pillow form that I already have. My mom has one that she likes to just change the forms out for every holiday, so I said, let me know the size, and that's what I'm going to work with. So I cut out my piece, which happened to be 19 by 12 inches, and I just have it on a piece of canvas here, and I just started cutting out hearts and throwing them on top. All I did was I would take a piece of fabric and I would simply fold it in half to the part that I want to make the center. Now, for most of the fabrics, it didn't really matter. So for example, like this polka dotted one, there wasn't a part I was looking for. It was simply just the fabric itself. So I just kind of folded a piece and cut it. But this one, I'm trying to get this flower right here in the center. So I'm going to take the two edges and go ahead and line those up. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to cut out a half heart right here. So I just cut a little line on an angle, give it a little bit of an arch, and then right in the middle there. And when you open it up, you have a beautiful little heart. So very easy. You can make them all different sizes and shapes. You can see I made some bigger ones. This one I did a little bit more rounded around the edges, and I did some straighter ones. So it's really up to your preference. I think the differences make them a little bit more fun. Now, to get them on the fabric, how do we do that? So there was a hack someone taught me once, and that's what we're doing today. The way that I get the fabric on here is I didn't want to use Steam-A-Seam or Hot Fix or anything like that. So I am just using Washable Elmer's glue. I had a glue stick, and all I did was I am going to mark a little, I'm thinking I want my W right here in the middle because that's my parents' last name. It starts with a W. So I'm going to put a little dab of glue right there. I got some thread in it, but it doesn't matter. It's getting covered up. And I'm just going to put that there, and I'm going to take this right over to my iron and give that a nice little press. All right, over to our ironing board. I have the glue right underneath. It's already starting to stick pretty good, but to make sure it stays really nicely, I'm just going to give it a little press with a hot iron. And then that's not going anywhere. So I can shake it all about, and it's on there. You can see that it kind of flaps a little bit, but that's fine. We just want to make sure that it's nice and in place. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch around here just as I did on these other pieces. And I did about a 4 on my stitch width, just so I can make sure that it kind of looks like hand quilted a little bit, but without all of that extra work. So let's bring it over to the sewing machine. And like I said, I'm just going to stitch right around the edge. All right, so what I'm going to do is I have my fabric and my pillow underneath my sewing machine. So it is batting, I have my linen fabric, and then I have my fun little heart pieces. And like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch all the way around. Let's get diving in. All right, so again, I'm just going to do it right here on the edge. And I did give it a good little back stitch, so I make sure that stays nice. Slow and steady wins the race. No need to rush this part. I just want to make sure that I am getting, you know, kind of close to the edge. And then once we wash this, we can actually get this like frayed edge, which will look so nice. And I did pick up my needle here. I normally want to keep that down, but that's okay. Give it another little back stitch. And around these corners, I like to make sure, again, that I'm going nice and slow. And I honestly just pick up my thread several times. And I'm gonna just trim off this extra little thread here. All right, and then I am gonna just finish off again with a little back stitch to make sure that everything is locked nicely in place. And I can take this off of my sewing machine, snip off those extra little threads. And if you get a little zoom in right here, you can see on the back side how I just stitched around each little heart and how I had taken the glue and just did it right here in the middle. I was able to just lift up the little edges and work on the back pieces first. So now that we have our pillow ready to go, I have the top completed. I'm gonna go ahead and make the backing now. So like I had mentioned before, I do want to make this easy to get off, as my mom uses the same pillow for every decoration on the same chair. So I wanted this to fit nicely. It's just gonna go over a pillow form that she already has. So we're gonna do like a pocket where she could just slide in the pillow and then kind of close that pocket back up. And my mom, of course, I asked for tips on things that she might want. She wanted a pop of color, so we're gonna add a binding on there too. So I've already cut my 2.5 inch binding, and once I get my backing done, we're gonna go ahead and sandwich that all together so we can go ahead and get our fun little piping on the edge. Okay, so now I have my backing piece. I have two pieces that are slightly larger than my front piece. I'm doing that just so these are going to overlap over my little pillow frame, and I just want to make sure I have a nice finished edge. So I'm going to do about 1/4 inch and iron those flat, and I'm going to fold it over twice, just like this, so that it gives a nice finish, and I'm not going to have any sort of frayed edges whenever she's taking that pillow in and out. And this does not need to be perfect. Again, it is just about 1/4 inch is what I'm doing. And I did cut them larger, so I will have some extra space to work with, just in case. Okay, got one edge. I'm gonna do that one more time, and then I'm gonna give it a stitch right across. All right, we've done one, and then we're gonna do our other one. Okay, and now that that's pressed nicely, I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch right across here so I have a finished edge. Okay, and now I have all of my pieces on here, so I'm going to trim up my batting fabric to be the size of my top. And a nice trick that I always like to say is always close your rotary cutter every time you're done cutting, because you do not want to get cut. It is not fun. My little pillow top all cut out and ready to get my backing on here. Now I'm going to do pretty sides together so that when I flip it inside out, I won't have any seams showing. So I already have my pieces that I've already cut and sewn down a flat line from, and I'm going to want to have those overlapping just a bit to make sure that I have a little pocket for my pillow to be able to fit into. So I have that nice around here, and I'll flip it around so you can also see it. So you can see it is bigger than what the pillow is itself, but I'll go ahead and trim that up and bring it over to my sewing machine. I'm going to do now is just pin along the entire edge. Again, we are flipping this inside out because it is a pillow that we're making, so we do not need to leave any openings. We're just going to sew all the way around. Okay, let's go ahead and get this pinned up. Now I have pinned all the way around. I'm going to stitch all the way around, and where I have this pillow backing overlapped, I do like to back stitch just to make sure that's going to have a little bit more tension. So I like to make sure it has just some extra strength there, and it can't hurt. So let's dive in. As I'm going along, I'm just going to pull out my pins. You can also clip it too, but just make sure to pull those out whenever you're going along. And again, right here, I'm going to go ahead and just back stitch over it just to make sure that is nice and secure on there, okay? And I'm doing about 1/4 inch along the edge. And right when I'm about 1/4 inch away, I'm going to make sure my needle is down. And I'm going to lift up my presser foot, give it a turn, and then just go along the edge and keep going. And we're going to do that on every corner. Okay, so now that we have all of our edges stitched all the way across, and again, we back stitched right where our pieces are overlapping, I am going to trim off the corners to make sure those look nice and uniform, and it's going to alleviate some of that bulk when I'm trying to push out my corners. Make sure not to snip off your stitching at this point. We are just going right outside of it and cutting those edges down. All right, now I have trimmed up my corners, and what I'm going to do is just turn it inside out. I'll make sure my corners are popped out nicely. So I'm just focusing on the corners right now, and then I'm going to have it all laid out. Okay, so I have turned this inside out. It is a little bit bigger than, what the actual front is, but that's okay. We have it overlapping so that our pillow can fit inside. And I'm just going to give this a nice little press so that we can add our binding on here. Now I'm going to just attach this like I would any normal binding. I'm going to go ahead and pin this around and add the binding on here really quick. Okay, so what I have done with my binding is I cut 2.5 inch strips. I folded it in half, gave it a nice crease, and then folded the sides in to meet that crease in the middle, and then folded again. So I have no raw edges showing, and I'm actually going to just sandwich my little pillow right here in the middle. I do also like to kind of fold this over so I don't have any raw edges, and we're gonna lay those two over each other and you won't even notice a thing. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the bottom because that's the part that's gonna be at the bottom. So if there is anything that looks a little bit different, that's where it's gonna show and you're not even gonna notice. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin this all the way across and get this stitched on. Okay, so I just finished pinning all the way around, so what I'm going to do is just do a straight stitch all the way around and we'll be finished. And I am just taking out the pins as I go. Right when I get to this corner, I'm going to put my needle down and give it a good little turn. Put that presser foot back down and make sure my needles are out of the way. Remember, we're going to have some bulk right here from the back side of our pillow, so we do want to just make sure we're going nice and slow right there. And I can definitely feel where that bulk is, so just take it nice and slow and make sure your machine's going through all those layers of fabric. And we're coming up on the corner, so we're going to keep going, go to that corner, and again, just make sure our needle is down. I pinned not close enough, so I'm having to battle it just a little bit, but if you put more pins, the less you're going to have to sit there and kind of finagle it, so keep that in mind when you are pinning. Make sure I got a nice little minor corner there. I'm just pressing the corner under and having a nice point there. Again, needle down and turn. And I'm just going to back stitch again just to make sure that's nice and secure, and then we'll just add our pillow form. All right, we've just put our pillow form in there, and now we have a Valentine pillow that you can use. And again, it's got that flopped backing, so you can take your pillow out super easy. And if you guys have any questions, please let us know. Happy sewing!